Good morning, Dan and Amy. So, turning over to Hillary Clinton, while she was giving a boring speech that was politely received.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the cutaway of the crowd? They didn't really welcome her too much.
Well, because she was at the American Legion.
I know. And Donald Trump's going to be there today.
And she shouldn't be welcomed. To compare and contrast the receptions the two receive. But while that was happening, some more information was coming out about Hillary's emails. Another day, another revelation of her illegal conduct. We're going to discuss the political implications with National Review's Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, because we know there's not going to be any legal implications, obviously.
Well, a girl can dream,
It's ridiculous. Please. But here's an interesting additional note. Hillary Clinton emailed classified information months after she left the State Department.
What?
The email went to people including Deputy Secretary of State William Burns, diplomat Jeffrey Feltman, policy aide Jake Sullivan, diplomat Kurt Campbell, her chief of staff Cheryl Mills, top aide Mrs. Carlos Danger, sent from the address hrod17 at clintonemail.com. Maybe it should be Nimrod17, which is associated with Clinton's private email server. And it was about the 123 deal, a 2009 agreement between the United Arab Emirates and the United States regarding nuclear energy production, classified information. Months after she was no longer Secretary of State. Huh. On a related note...
She has no shame.
Well, that's the tip of the iceberg. On a related note, another more leakage from Guccifer 2.0, his hack of the DCCC. An internal memo leaked by Guccifer revealed the DCCC warned staffers to be prepared for Black Lives Matter protests and offered advice on how to respond to protests. This is in advance of the DNC, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You got the DNC and the BLM.
Wow, you love your acronyms.
I do.
UGO.
This is the Democrat strategy for everything. Listen from this memo excerpted. Be a partner and lead from behind. It works so well in Libya, let's use it with Black Lives Matter. BLM activists don't want their movement co-opted by the Democrat Party. They are leery of politicians who hijack their message to win campaigns. Oh. So meet with them in personal or small groups and make an overture to them, of course. Oh, but just do so you're not giving the impression that they're an AstroTurf movement that's being sponsored by the Democrat Party. Lead from behind. Oh, boy. And just so you know, the choice again, and Trump needs to recrystallize this after Labor Day, another choice on the domestic front you want to make as you contemplate this election, who's on the side of the Black Lives Matter professional agitators, and who's on the side of law enforcement, and which side do you want to be on? For more on this and related matters, we're happy to be joined by the aforesaid Andy McCarthy from National Review Online. Andy, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, Amy, good morning. How are you?
Good. So you wrote a rather pointed piece in National Review Online the other day about the emails that relate to Benghazi, 30 emails that potentially relate to Benghazi that were identified by the FBI and are apparently going to be turned over by the State Department when they get around to it. Why is that so important? And you were particularly aghast by the State Department's response to this revelation.
Yeah, as far as Clinton is concerned, Dan, I think this is just more of the same. I mean, basically we know that she set up this Wallace communication system, looked the American people in the eye, told them that when the State Department asked for it, she gave them everything that was relevant to her government work. And that was just a monumental lie. And, every time, it's such a monumental lie that every time you turn around, there's more evidence that she's not trustworthy. And the interesting thing about that is that, she knew when she set this thing up that it would frustrate both, FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act lawsuits where Americans are entitled to get information from the government, legal proceedings, legislative proceedings, and she went ahead anyway, which to me is an even bigger deal in many ways than the classified information piece of it.
So how did Hillary Clinton attempt, though, to destroy those 30 emails? Do you have any information on that?
Well, we know that these 30 are among the 32,000 or 33,000 that she didn't turn over to the State Department, a lot of them, but not all of them by any means, were able to be reassembled by meticulous forensic work by the FBI, and that's how they got these. But the reason that it was so difficult to do is that while Mrs. Clinton, played the ingenue, I don't know anything about this email stuff. Wipe the server clean? What do you mean, with a towel? It turns out that she used a fairly sophisticated software program called BleachBit to try to make sure that everything on that server was destroyed and no one would ever be able to recover it. So it is, in some ways, kind of astounding that the FBI was able to pull this off, but that's how they got these 30.
But I want to go back, and I want to go back to the State Department, though, because as you say, this is pro forma for Hillary Clinton. We know she is a congenital liar. We know for kind of rolling criminal enterprise. But there's continued corruption at the State Department, effectively, by their response to the federal judge on this matter of the Benghazi emails.
Yeah, well, let's think about Benghazi for a second. We know that, for the last couple of years, right, there's been congressional investigations into this. There's been about 3 different committees, one that was fully dedicated to Benghazi, and a couple of other committees that went over it fairly carefully. We know that there have been civil Freedom of Information Act lawsuits that this is totally relevant to because they've asked for Benghazi information. And we've known for a few years now that the administration did file an indictment against one of the jihadists who was involved in the Benghazi case, where the government has discovery obligations to turn over information in government files to defense lawyers. So we know all this information, and the State Department knew all this information was out there, yet the FBI has had these emails for some time now. Its investigation, we heard, lasted for about 14, 15 months. And the State Department was cut in on what the FBI was finding out because we know from Director Comey that the FBI worked closely with all the agencies that are part of the Intelligence Committee in connection with any emails that it recovered that had classified information in them. So we know now that all these different agencies of government, the State Department, the Justice Department that represents the state in court, the FBI, which is part of the Justice Department, they've known for months and months and months that they've had these relevant emails to these different investigations, and yet they sat on them. And they walked into court the other day and had the audacity not only to tell a judge that despite knowing that they had this for all this time, they're just revealing it now, but to ask them for yet another 30 days so that they could go through them more carefully before turning them over.
Who needs 30 days to review 3 dozen emails?
That's ridiculous.
Right.
It's absurd.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous.
So as a federal prosecutor,
that they had the nerve to do it.
Right, but as a federal prosecutor, isn't your head spinning right now? I mean, isn't this making you sick?
My head would be spinning, Amy, because a judge would have chopped it off me if I tried to do
Right.
something like that in court. The old heads will roll. That's how it would have been spinning. I mean, it's just, you have to remember that, for the lawyer going into court, right, your client is responsible for the delay. So your tone ought to be in that situation, gee, we're really sorry about this. What can we do to make it better? And instead they said, yeah, we sat on it, and guess what? We want to sit on it for another 30 days.
Now, I've got to ask you about this idea you had. You wrote a piece about it. We asked your colleague Jonah Goldberg about it, but he had his nose in his book that he's writing when we talked with him, so he hadn't had a chance to read it yet, and he was kind of jarred by the proposal. It's a creative one, and you're a creative attorney in addition to an opinion columnist. The idea of impeaching Hillary Clinton, that's the constitutional remedy for corruption, impeachment. How do we do that?
Yeah, well, see, the objection people have to this is that she's not in the government at the moment.
Right.
But if you look at the Constitution, with the impeachment clause, the impeachment clauses, actually, there's a couple of them that refer to impeachment. But what they say is that the penalty for impeachment is that you are not only removed from office, but you are deprived in the future of any office of trust under the United States. Which means that it's not just that they take away the power that you have now, it's the power that you could prospectively have. So I think at the very least, now look, we know that this Congress is not going to impeach Hillary Clinton. I mean, they're just not. They're certainly not going to remove her, and I don't think even. I mean, we can't get them to impeach the IRS director, who should be out dead to rights.
And
right?
they're a little jittery about the perjury case against her too.
Yeah, no. Look, she got whitewashed on the Justice Department side, and Congress wants to moan and whine and complain that no one will do anything about it. Yet the framers have given Congress power to do something about it. So, to my mind, they ought to stop complaining and use the power they have. And at the very least, let's have some hearings which marshal all of her misconduct in a very public way. Even if she doesn't get impeached, that would be worth doing to me.
I love this idea. I mean, I got to say, it's a brilliant idea, and I'm surprised it's not getting more discussion because it's using the Constitution as the framers envisioned it. It's right there, as you say. It's just something, it's a document nobody ever looks at because we just work around it in the political class. And so nobody would ever thought of this, but you go to kind of source material and you never know what you're going to find. It's just a genius argument. I love it. And this would avoid us having to Dilma Rousseff her if she's elected. So,
I wish I thought it was that no one ever thought of this and that I was so brilliant. I think the real thing here is that they don't want to do anything about it. They just want to complain because this is accountable. This is where you have to take your own action and stand up and be candid and say, yes, I think she ought to be impeached or not.
All right. He is Andy McCarthy. You can catch his insightful arguments like that one. NationalReviewOnline.com. Andy, thanks so much for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.